Hello, my friends, viewers, and followers. I'm so glad you tuned back in for another episode of Philothea. And you can see I'm a little flushed. My cheeks are pretty red because it's pretty hot. It's pretty warm today, and we don't have it that often that warm. And so I hope you are enjoying this episode. It's going to be another lecture. I hope you enjoyed the lecture on patience, because today we're going to have another virtue which we are going to look at. We're in book 3. So we had patience, and we're going to talk about humility today. Yay! Most people are like, oh, humility. Yeah, we don't like to talk about humility, which is but a really, really important virtue. So I hope we're really taking it seriously and really considering what is written here. External humility. Borrow empty vessels, not a few, said Elias to the poor widow, and pour oil into them, 4 Kings 4. And before we can receive the grace of God into our hearts, they must be thoroughly empty of all self-glory. The kestrel has a peculiar property of frightening away birds of prey with its looks and cries, for which reasons the dove seeks it beyond all other birds and lives fearlessly in its neighborhood. And so humility repulses Satan and preserves in us the gift and the graces of the Holy Spirit. For this reason, all of the saints, and especially the King of Saints and his mother, ever honored and cherished this virtue above all others. We call vainglory that which we seek for ourselves, either for that which is not in us, or being in us is not our own, or being in us and our own is not worthy to be glorified in. Noble birth, the favor of great and popular esteem, are not in ourselves. They come either from our forefathers or from the opinion of others. Some are proud and conceited because they have a fine horse, a plum in the hat, or are magnified attire, but who cannot perceive the absurdity of this, since if anyone has reason to be proud, it surely is the horse or the ostrich or the tailor who made the clothes. You know, to have a nice feather in your hat might not be today's pride. It might rather be the good car, the good phone, the nice house, the great, I don't know, the shoes, whatever. But you see, the glory should be actually given to the tailor, or to the builder of the house, or, the builder of the car, or the phone. And how very contemptible it is to rest our hope of esteem in a horse, a feather, or a garment, a phone, a car, a house, our job, our honor, our title. In other things of his well-trimmed beard and mustache, or his well-curled hair, his delicate hands, or of his compliments in dancing, music, and so on, but it is not very contemptible to try to enhance his worth or his reputation through such foolish and frivolous things. Others who have acquired a little science demand the respect and honor of the world on that account, as if all must needs come to learn of them and bow before them. Such men we call pedants. Others pride themselves on their personal beauty and think that everyone is admiring them. All of them, in their turn, are utterly silly, foolish, and impertinent, and they glory in such empty things we'll call vain, absurd, and frivolous. You may judge of real worth as a real balm, which is tried in water, and if it sinks and remains at the bottom, it is known to be precious and costly. And so in order to know whether a man is really wise, learned, generous, noble, observe whether his gifts make him humble, modest, and submissive. Now, we wouldn't think of an honorable person, having that, or a wealthy person. Not necessarily. We rather think of outwardly things and material things that they have or possess. If they are genuine, but if they float to the surface and would fain display themselves, be sure that in proportion as they make a show, so are they less worthy. Those pearls which are formed or fed in the wind and thunder, and leave only a pearly shell without any substance, and so those virtues and attractive qualities which have their root and support in pride, self-sufficiency, and vanity, have but the outward show of excellence, and are without sap, mirror, or solidity. So you look what's underneath, not only the things that you can see with your eyes. Honor, rank, and dignity are like the saffron, which flourishes and increases most when it is trodden underfoot. All the value of beauty is gone when its possessor are self-conscious. To be pleasing, it should be forgotten, and science becomes contemptible when it is puffed up and degenerates into pedantry. If we're punctilious about rank, title, and precedence, we both lay our claims open to investigations, and contradictions render them vile and despicable. For that honor which means something when willingly offered becomes contemptible when it is sought after, demanded, and exacted. When the peacock displays his gorgeous plumes, he lays bare also all his deformations, and those flowers which are beautiful in native soil soon wither if we handle them. And as they who inhale the mandragora from afar off and for a brief space find it very delicious, but those who inhale it near and for long become drowsy and ill, so worldly honors are acceptable to him who receives them indifferently, without resting in them or seeking them eagerly, but they become very dangerous and hurtful to him who clings to it and takes delight in them, who take their value from these things, value from a title, value from outward beauty, from stuff that they own. But once you strip them from that, what is left? What is there left? As I have said before, sometimes you see a beautiful woman and you find her very beautiful until she opens her mouth. And then it's like, she's not that beautiful. She is really not beautiful. And it can even turn into a pain. She's ugly. And some women that are maybe less beautiful, but are really, really beautiful on the inside, it shines through and it makes them more beautiful. The desire and pursuit of virtue tend to render us virtuous, but the desire and pursuit of honors tend to make us odious and acceptable. A really great mind will not waste itself on such empty goods as rank, honor, and form. It has higher pursuits and leaves these for the weak and vain. He who can pursue pearls will not be satisfied with shells, and those who aim at virtue do not trouble themselves about honors. Of course, each man may enter into and remain in his own sphere without lack of humility, so long as he does it with indifference and without effort. Just as vessels coming from Peru, laden with gold and silver, bring also a number of monkeys and parrots which cost nothing and add but a little to their fright, so those who aspire to be virtuous may well accept their rightful rank and honor, but always without bestowing much care or thought on them, and without being involved in cares, vexations, disputes, and anxieties in consequence. I'm not alluding here to those invested with public dignities, nor to special and important occasions, in which everyone is bound to maintain a fitting dignity with prudence and discretion, combined with charity and courtesy. And we're going to continue with the next chapter in this because it's on inward humility. So now we saw outwardly, now we're going to draw inward. So it's chapter 5 of book 3. But you, Philothea, you would have me lead you further in the practice of humility, for that of which I have been speaking is rather wisdom than humility. There are some who neither will nor dare consider and dwell upon the individual grace which God has conferred upon them, for fear of vainglory and self-conceit, but they are mistaken. For if indeed, as an angelical doctor tells us, the sure way of attracting to the love of God is to dwell upon his mercies, the more we appreciate them, the more we shall love him. And as everyone is more alive to private than to public benefits, they should more especially consider them. Assuredly nothing can so humble us before the compassion of God as the abundance of his mercies. Nothing so humble us before his justice as the abundance of the misdeed. Let us reflect upon all he has done for us, and all we have done against him. And as we count over our sins in detail, even so let us count over his mercies. And it always shows that we don't deserve his mercy, but he gives it to us not because we deserve it. We cannot do anything to deserve it, but because he loves us. It's because of love. We need not to fear to be puffed up with the knowledge of what he has done for us. If we keep well before us the truth that whatever good there may be in us, it's not of us. Though a mule is laden with the precious and perfumed treasures of the prince, it is not still a clumsy, filthy beast. What hast thou that thou didst not receive? And if thou didst receive it, why dost thou glory as if thou hast not received it? 1 Corinthians 4. On the contrary, a lively consciousness of mercies received makes us humble, for such knowledge gives birth to gratitude. But if in the consideration of God's grace any vanity were to slip in, we should find an infallible remedy in the remembrance of our ingratitude, our imperfections, our weakness. And if we reflect on what we have done without God, we shall require no further proof that what we do when he is with us is not of ourselves or of our own strength. We shall rejoice in the certainty and rejoice because we have done it, but we shall give all the glory of it to God, who is the author, who enables us to be good, to do good, to love, and to be truly virtuous. Thus the Blessed Virgin declared what great things God had done in her, but only in order to humble herself and exalt him. She said, "My soul," she says, "doth magnify the Lord, because he that is mighty has done great things to me." Luke 1:46-49. Sometimes we profess that we are not, that we are weakness itself, and the very offscoring of the earth. But we should be ill-pleased to be taken at our word and generally esteemed according to what we say. On the contrary, we pretend to fly and hide ourselves in order to be followed and searched after. We pretend that we should be amongst the humble and take the lower place, but it is in order the better to go up higher. True humility does not affect to the humble and makes few lowly speeches, for she not only desires to hide other virtues, but above all to hide herself. And if it were lawful for her to lie or deceive or offend others, she would appear outwardly proud and naughty, so as to conceal her real self and live unknown in the concealment. My advice, therefore, is that you do not abound in expressions of humility, or at least let a deep inward feeling agree with whatever you say outwardly. Never cast down your eyes without humbling your heart, and do not pretend that you wish to be amongst the least unless you truly desire it in your heart. Don't we pretend? Don't we put on a show? Especially in social media, we are all so happy. We speak and we're calm and patient and in a meditative state, and it's all beautiful. And then, but what is in your heart? What is truly in you? What truly is in you? That's so much more important. So the essence is stop pretending. Stop pretending and truly be yourself. And yes, some people will not like you for that. That's okay. But it's really, most people will love you even more when you are yourself. Because it is the kind of vulnerability that is so missing in this world. To just be honest, to just be yourself. And it's okay to be yourself. This I hold for you for so universal a rule that I make no exception to it. Only sometimes ordinary courtesy may require us to concede the superiority to those who evidently have no claim to it, and in that there is neither deception nor false humility, for in such a case the concession of superiority is the beginning of honor, and since we cannot give it them altogether, it is well to give what we can. I should say the same with regard to certain expressions of honor and respect, which may not appear strictly true, but which really are true if he who utters them has in his heart a sincere intention to honor and respect him to whom he addresses them. For, although the words themselves may be exaggerated, yet there is no harm in following the conventional rule of society in using them. Still, I should wish that our words were always as far as possible in conformity with our feelings, that so we might be actuated in all and through all by cordial sincerity and candor. Don't lie. Don't slime yourself, Give the honor to whom the honor is needed to be given, and respect may be given, but don't lie. See, it's not that you need to change the way you speak and slime and, sweet talk other people. You need to work on your heart that you might feel good of others and love others and become more kind and patient and calm and being truly humble. We are working far more on pretending and outwardly looking good than truly being good. A really humble man would rather let another say that he is contemptible and worth nothing than to say to himself, at any rate, when he knows that such things are said, he does not contradict them, but consents willingly. He believes it himself and is content with others should share his opinion. There are many who say that they leave mental prayer to perfect men. They themselves are not capable of it. Others, that they dare not communicate frequently, for they feel themselves unworthy. Some say that they fear to disgrace religion if they pretend to it, but reason of their frailty and sinfulness, or they refuse to devote their talents to the service of God and their neighbor, because they say that knowing their weakness, they fear lest they puffed up if they do any good thing, and so in doing good to others, they injure themselves. All these excuses are deceptive, not only false humility, but evil, inasmuch as they seek tractility and secretly to find fault with the things of God, or at least to cover their own self-love, indulgence, and evil dispositions, and the cloak of humility. Ask thee a sign of the Lord thy God, either unto the depth of hell or unto the heights above, said the prophet to Achaz. But Achaz said, I will not ask, I will not tempt the Lord. Isaiah 7:12. A wicked man, he finds a deep reverence for God and under pretense of humility refuses to seek the grace of proven by his divine mercy. Could he not perceive that to refuse God's favor is mere pride, that his gift must be gratefully received, and that true humility lies in obeying him and following his will to our utmost? And his will is that we be perfect, uniting ourselves to him and imitating him to the utmost of our capacity. The proud man who trusts in himself may well fear to undertake anything, but the humble are bold in proportion as they feel their own insufficiencies, and as they count themselves weak, they acquire strength, because all their reliance is in God, who delights to magnify his omnipotence in our weakness and to exalt his mercy upon our misery. We may then humbly and devoutly presume to undertake all that may be judged proper for our advancement by those who guide our souls. Nothing can be more foolish than to fancy we know what we do not know. And no vanity is more contemptible than that which affects knowledge, which does not really we possess. For myself, I would neither boast of what I do know, nor pretend to be more ignorant than I am. When charity requires, you should impart freely and gently whatever is necessary for your neighbor's instructions, or may serve to comfort or help him. For although humility conceals her gift in order to their preservation, she's always ready to produce them when charity requires it, thereby strengthening, enlarging, and perfecting them. In this, humility resembles that tree of Tylus, which at night folds up and conceals in a beautiful flower, opening them up to the rising sun, for which reason the inhabitants of that island say that the flowers sleep at night. So humility enfolds and conceals all our virtues and human perfections, producing them only at the call of charity, which is not an earthly but a heavenly virtue, not a moral but a divine perfection, and the very sun of all the other virtues, over which she should always preside. And therefore such humility, as it is opposed to charity, is undoubtedly superior. So when you can help somebody, help somebody. If you can comfort them, if you can help them to be more patient, if you can help them, give them whatever, virtues you have, don't pretend you don't have them. Help if you can, because that's true love of your neighbor. I would neither affect wisdom nor folly, for if humility forbids me to affect wisdom, simplicity, and honesty forbid me to affect folly, or as vanity is opposed to humility, so all artifice, affections, and pretense are supposed to be honestly and simplicity. Nor because certain eminent servants of God have assumed a garb of folly, must we think to imitate them. The inducing causes of their actions being so rare and extraordinary that they cannot be any example to us. When David leaped and danced before the ark of the Lord, it was not in assumed extravagance of demeanor, but simply that his external actions corresponded to the unusual, immeasurable gladness of his heart. It was honest, not a show. Therefore, when Michal, his wife, reproached him with his folly, he was not offended at her contempt, but continuing in his earnest, hearty demonstrations of joy, declared himself willing to bear some reproach for God's sake. In like manner, if any despise you or count you as foolish and contemptible on account of those actions which proceed from a true and heartly devotion, humility will teach you to take pleasure in such honorable contempt, the cause of which is not really in you, but in those that reproach you. So, again, don't make a show. Be yourself and grow in virtue. Work on yourself. Don't just be like, oh, this is how I am, so here we go. That's not what I mean either. You're supposed to grow in virtue. We are here on earth to become better, to grow in virtue, to grow in love, to be reconnected with God, and actually take Him as our example. So, I hope you enjoyed this lecture and you really think about this. Take this into your life, into your daily walk, and really think before you do any action, before you go on social media, before you do anything, is, do I really feel like this, or am I putting on a show? And I think the shows that are put on social media are really not helpful, because a lot of the times people see things and think that others are so much more happy and they have such a great life, when in truth it's not true. It's not true. And we need to hear this over and over again, that we all suffer. We all have, even if we live at the most beautiful location, or have the most beautiful house, that doesn't mean that we're happy. We might feel like if we had that, we were happy, but that's not true. Because stuff cannot make you happy. It cannot fulfill your heart. Only God can. And the virtues. We just went over patience in the last lectures, and now about humility. And we will continue on this with the next lectures. I hope to see you soon again. God bless you.